The year 2024 was meant to be a continuation of the fairy tale for Catherine, Princess of Wales. As the wife of Prince William and the mother of Prince George, Princess Charlotte, and Prince Louis, she was the steady, radiant heart of the modern monarchy. She was known for her dazzling smile, her impeccable style, and her unwavering commitment to her duties. But behind the gilded gates of Kensington Palace, a storm was brewing that would test the very core of her being. This is the story not of a princess in a tower, but of a woman, a mother, a wife, a daughter, who found a hidden well of strength she never knew she possessed. It is a story of faith discovered in the darkness, family bonds forged in fire, and an unexpected, unshakable loyalty from the men and women who have sworn to protect the crown. It's a story about navigating the stormy waters when life changes in an instant. Part 1. It began not with a dramatic fall or a public collapse, but with a quiet, private worry that took root in the early days of 2024. Catherine, who had always been the picture of health and vitality, was not feeling like herself. After the whirlwind of the Christmas holidays, a time she cherished for its focus on family and tradition, a persistent discomfort led her to seek medical advice. What followed was a series of hushed consultations, private scans, and anxious waits, scenarios that played out far from the flash of paparazzi cameras. The decision was made for her to undergo planned abdominal surgery. In a carefully worded statement, Kensington Palace assured the public that the condition was non-cancerous and that she would be taking a step back from royal duties to recover, with a return expected after Easter. It seemed, on the surface, a manageable, if inconvenient, pause in a relentless schedule. For the family, it was a time for Catherine to heal in the peace of her home, away from the public eye. But within the walls of Adelaide Cottage, their home in Windsor, the reality was far more unsettling. The surgery was a success, but the recovery was slower and more draining than anyone had anticipated. Catherine, a natural athlete known for her boundless energy with her young children, found herself confined to bed, exhausted by the simplest tasks. The easy rhythm of family life, the school runs, the bedtime stories, the playful chaos, was disrupted. William, balancing his own public duties with the desperate need to be present for his wife and children, became a silent sentinel, a bridge between the family's private crisis and the demands of the outside world. The three young children, George, Charlotte, and the irrepressible Louis, were told simply that Mummy was sick and needed lots of rest. They responded with the pure, unquestioning love that only children can offer, bringing her drawings, climbing carefully onto the bed for cuddles, and providing a powerful, silent motivation for their mother to get better. The world outside, unaware of the gravity of the situation, waited patiently for her return, expecting the usual parade of cheerful royal engagements. They had no idea that inside the royal residence, the future queen was fighting a battle far greater than any public appearance. The Part 2. As Catherine tried to focus on healing within the sanctuary of her home, the world outside was spinning into a frenzy of speculation. The information vacuum left by the initial palace statement proved to be a breeding ground for wild conspiracy theories. With Catherine absent from public view, the internet erupted. What began as concerned curiosity morphed into a global phenomenon that was quickly dubbed the #KateGate scandal. Social media platforms became a cauldron of wild guesses and malicious rumors. Was she really just recovering from surgery? Had something gone terribly wrong? Wild theories about William's personal life began to circulate, and the speculation grew so intense that it became a running joke on late-night television. Even mainstream media outlets and public figures jumped on the bandwagon, some publishing speculative pieces and memes. The Dublin Airport social media account jokingly photoshopped the couple into one of its terminals. Kim Kardashian made a flippant remark about finding her herself. The King of the Netherlands even participated in a joke about an edited photograph. To the public, it was a puzzle to be solved, a bit of entertainment. To the family trapped inside the palace walls, it was a relentless, deafening roar of noise at the worst possible time. The pressure reached a fever pitch in March following a well-intentioned misstep. To quell some of the rumors and offer a glimpse of normality on Mother's Day in the UK, Kensington Palace released a photograph of Catherine smiling with her 3 children. It was intended to be a reassuring image, but it backfired spectacularly. Major news agencies noticed inconsistencies in the image and retracted it, citing manipulation. The princess, in a rare personal statement, took the blame, admitting she sometimes experimented with editing. This apology, intended to smooth things over, instead threw gasoline on the fire. The conspiracy theorists felt vindicated. The jokes intensified. For Catherine, lying in bed, recovering from major surgery and grappling with the fear of what might come next, it was a devastating blow. She was a private person being forced to navigate a public nightmare, unable to defend herself, unable to explain. She and William watched from behind the curtain as the world tore their family's story apart for entertainment, all while they carried a secret so heavy it threatened to crush them. They were not just protecting their privacy, but they were protecting their children from the devastating news that their mother had cancer, news they were still trying to process themselves. Part 3. The turning point came on March 22, 2024. The jokes, the memes, the relentless speculation, it all came to a screeching, deafening halt. In a powerful pre-recorded video message shot in the gentle spring sunshine of Windsor, a pale but composed Catherine addressed the world directly. Sitting on a bench, surrounded by daffodils, she delivered news that no one expected, and everyone immediately regretted demanding. With a trembling voice, but unwavering eyes, she revealed the truth. Following her abdominal surgery, tests had confirmed the presence of cancer. She was now in the early stages of preventative chemotherapy. This, of course, came as a huge shock, she said, and her words simple and profound. William and I have been doing everything we can to process and manage this privately for the sake of our young family. She spoke of the time it had taken to explain everything to George, Charlotte, and Louis, and to reassure them that she was going to be okay. The effect was instantaneous and global. The tone of the conversation shifted from mockery to shame, from speculation to sympathy. The online trolls went silent. The memes were deleted. Public figures who had made jokes offered hasty apologies. The weight of collective guilt was palpable. For the woman at the center of the storm, the video was not just a public statement. It was a reclaiming of her own narrative. It was an act of profound courage. In her moment of greatest vulnerability, she chose to speak her truth, not to satisfy public curiosity, but to protect her children from the noise and to connect with others fighting the same battle. She asked, not for an apology, but for time, space, and privacy as she completed her treatment. The world, finally, was ready to listen. The overwhelming wave of support that followed was a stark contrast to the weeks prior, and for William and Catherine, it was a source of immense strength. They were no longer alone with their secret. They were wrapped, however imperfectly, in the empathy of millions. The fairy tale had shattered, but in its place was something far more real and compelling, a family's determined fight for survival. Part 4. With the truth finally out, Catherine and William could now focus on the fight ahead, shielded from the malicious speculation. The summer of 2024 became a sacred private time for the family of 5. And they retreated to their country home in Norfolk, Anmer Hall, a place they have always considered their true sanctuary. Here, away from the formalities of Kensington Palace and the watchful eyes of London, they could just be a family navigating a crisis. For Catherine, the goal was simple: to be present for her children. Chemotherapy is a grueling process, a chemical war waged within the body to destroy an invisible enemy. It brings with it waves of exhaustion, nausea, and a deep cellular fatigue. Yet, in the private moments captured later in a family video, the world got a glimpse of their summer. There was Catherine, pushing Louis on a swing, her face lit with a smile of pure, unadulterated joy. There she was, lying on a blanket on the beach next to William, their children playing nearby, finding a moment of peace in the vastness of the landscape. There she was, playing board games with her parents, Carol and Michael Middleton, whose quiet, steadfast presence provided an anchor of normalcy and unconditional love. This period of isolation was also a time of deep inner reflection for Catherine. The diagnosis, the treatment, the brush with her own mortality, it forced a new perspective. For much of her adult life, she had been defined by her role, the perfect princess, the future queen. But in the quiet moments between hospital visits, stripped of that public persona, she was forced to confront the woman beneath the crown. Reports from friends and courtiers began to emerge of a subtle but significant shift. Catherine, who was confirmed into the Church of England before her marriage, began to find a new depth in her faith. It wasn't the ceremonial, state-mandated religion of the monarchy, but something more personal, a quiet exploration of spiritual questions that life's easy path had never forced her to ask. The cancer journey is complex, scary, and unpredictable, she would later share. With humility, it also brings you face to face with your own vulnerabilities in a way you have never considered before. This journey was forcing her to build a new kind of strength, one rooted not in duty, but in a profound and personal sense of hope. It was a stark contrast to her husband, William, who, as friends noted, remained a modern young man, for whom the ceremonial aspects of faith held little personal resonance. He showed his support not through prayer, but through action, by being the rock for his family, the protector of their peace. Part 5. As Catherine fought her private war, a unique and powerful symbol of support stood waiting in the wings, ready to welcome her back when she was ready. Her bond with the Irish Guards, the elite regiment of the British Army for which she serves as colonel, had always been one of mutual respect and affection. But her illness transformed that bond into something far deeper, a tangible expression of loyalty and devotion. In June, as the regiment prepared for the Colonel's Review, the final rehearsal for the King's official birthday parade, trooping the color, Catherine was forced to miss her first major engagement with them. From her sickbed, she penned a deeply personal letter to the Guardsmen. "I wanted to write and let you know how proud I am of the entire regiment," she wrote. "Being your colonel remains a great honor, and I am very sorry that I'm unable to take the salute at this year's Colonel's Review." It was a letter from a leader to her troops, an apology for her absence, and a promise of her return. The Irish Guards were deeply touched, and their public response was filled with warmth and a fervent wish for her recovery. They continued to practice, their drills immaculate, a small piece of their motivation, knowing their colonel was watching and waiting, fighting her own battle. The bond was sealed in a moment of profound public symbolism months later. In her September video announcement that she had completed her chemotherapy, Catherine chose to share a deeply personal image. Among the family footage, there was a shot of her walking in the woods, and pinned to her jacket was a simple but powerful brooch, the shamrock of the Irish Guards. And it was a silent message, a nod to her regiment that she had carried them with her through her darkest days, and they, in turn, had carried her. The Guards represent the ultimate symbol of service and sacrifice, and their steadfast loyalty during her illness became a source of hidden strength for the princess. It was a reminder that she was part of something bigger than herself, that she had a family in uniform who stood ready to protect her, not just as their future queen, but as their colonel. This unspoken understanding, forged in the crucible of illness, added a new dimension to her role. It was no longer just a ceremonial title. It was a profound connection based on shared duty and mutual respect in the face of adversity. Part 6. On September 9, 2024, Catherine emerged from the shadows to share the news the world had been hoping for. In an intimate, beautifully filmed video set to a soft acoustic score, the Princess of Wales announced she had completed her course of chemotherapy. As the summer comes to an end, I cannot tell you what a relief it is to have finally completed my chemotherapy treatment, her voiceover said, as images of her family filled the screen. The video was a stark contrast to the formal staged portraits of the past. It showed her holding hands with William, laughing with her children, and embracing her parents. It was raw, real, and deeply moving. She was honest about the road ahead, stating that her path to healing and full recovery is long and that she would continue to take each day as it comes. But the dominant theme was not one of illness, but of gratitude. Thus, this time has above all reminded William and me to reflect and be grateful for the simple yet important things in life, which so many of us often take for granted, of simply loving and being loved, she said. She had navigated the stormy waters and had come out the other side with a renewed sense of hope and appreciation of life. The months that followed saw a gradual, carefully managed return to public life. A few engagements here, a royal appearance there, each one met with waves of public affection. But the most significant milestone was yet to come. In January 2025, it was announced that the princess was in remission, and then, on a crisp March day in 2025, a full-circle moment arrived. Catherine, Princess of Wales, Colonel of the Irish Guards, attended the St. Patrick's Day parade at Mons Barracks. It was the engagement she had been forced to miss the previous year. Dressed in a vibrant green coat, she stood before her regiment, a picture of health and quiet strength. She presented the traditional sprigs of shamrock to the officers and guardsmen, even presenting one to the regiment's Irish wolfhound mascot. She awarded medals and met with the families of soldiers. As she stood to take the salute at the march past, the symbolism was complete. She was no longer the princess who had to apologize for her absence. She was the colonel who had returned. She had faced her own battlefield, fought her own enemy, and emerged victorious. The cheers of the crowd and the pride in the eyes of the guardsmen were not just for the princess, but for the woman who had shown the world that true strength is not found in never falling, but in rising every time you fall, surrounded by faith, family, and the unshakable loyalty of those who believe in you.